Welcome to part 3 of the tutorial series Responsive Layout with WebIQ. We continue where we left off in part 2. Now we would like to add some more content to our home view. Let's update our sketch. Okay, so this is our sketch and let's update it. You see there is a title we also implemented, and we would now like to add 3 separate containers below where we would like to display some information. And the upper container should have a height of around 60% and the 2 lower containers should have a height of 40%. Okay, now let's do that in WebIQ. So first of all, we rename our container from content to home view content. So now we are going to add some padding to the home view content by going to the Style tab, clicking on any of these padding values, entering 16 for 16 pixel padding and clicking on Applying to all directions. Now we are ready to add the new containers. So we open the widget list and drag and drop a horizontal flex container and another horizontal flex container. Now we select the upper container and rename it to upper. We select the lower container and rename it to lower. We also want to set a background color. So we go to the Style tab, scroll down until we see background color. And now I'm going to type the hexadecimal value for the gray we used before directly. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard so that I can use it in different places. I do the same for the upper container, just pasting and you see it. For demonstration purposes, we're now going to set the overflow Y to auto scroll bar, and you will see why we do that in a minute. Okay, now we want both of them to have a height of 50% of the available space. So we scroll up and set the height to 50% for both containers. And right now you see that the height is definitely more than 100%, which is indicated by the scroll bar. But why is that? Well, we said that the 2 containers should use 50% of the space of their parent container. And this is what they actually do. Because we also have the title in here, the total height is 50% plus the height of the title. So how do we fix that? Well, it's quite easy. We just select the container, remove the height setting and set flex grow to 1. And do the same for the lower container. And now they use 50% of the remaining space. So this is the difference. The height is always an absolute value and the flex grow setting just uses the remaining space. However, we want still to change the sizing a bit because we want the upper container to have a height of 60% and the lower to have a height of 40% of the available space. So let's change that to 60 in the flex grow setting and 40 in the lower one. Now we can select the lower container and we can now remove the background color because it was just for illustration purposes. So now we still need to add 2 containers to the lower container. So we open the widget list and we drag a vertical flex container into the lower container and repeat that process so that we have 2 vertical flex containers in there right now. Then we rename the containers to right for the right container and left for the left container. And we also apply the background color for both of them. So I can just paste my color value here And now we want them to occupy 50% of the width. 50% and 50%. Okay, that's good. Well, as there is no spacing between these containers, it's very hard to see that these are different containers. So let's now add a margin to the upper container by selecting it, going to the Style tab, going to the Responsive Inspector, clicking on Margin Bottom and typing 16, which will create a 16 pixel margin at the bottom. Now for the left container, we set a right margin of 8 pixels, and for the right container, we set a left margin of 8 pixels. And you see it works perfectly, the margins are equal. But what is that? You probably guessed it already, it also has to do with the 50% width. Because if you do that, the margins are not considered at all. So this means that here we have 50% plus 8 pixels plus 8 pixels plus 50%, which is more than 100%, which shows us that we have 16 pixels here on the right that we do not want to have. So you could either remove the width setting and set flex grow to 1 for both of them, or, which is the simpler option in this case, you just set flex shrink to 1 for both containers. And now we have the desired result over here. So flex shrink shrinks the containers to the available size, considering margins as well. And now to clean up, we go to the home view content and remove the auto scrollbar setting because we do not need it anymore. Using flex grow and shrink options is very elegant and simple after some practice. Of course, there would be much simpler ways to set the width to fixed sizes in pixels. However, by doing that, you no longer profit from responsiveness and your app would have a fixed size, just like with conventional systems that are not web-based and therefore would not fit multiple devices with different screen sizes and orientations. Now let's have a look at the app in the preview. So we click on the Save button, click on Open Preview, and there we see our HMI with these responsive containers. If we now resize the view, we once again see what responsive design really means. And of course we can still slide our panel here. So this concludes part 3 of the tutorial. We hope that you liked it, and we see you in the next part of this tutorial series.